So how did I take this setup, shoot these shots, and get this final look? Let's find out. If you're using Filmic Pro and shooting ProRes log, be sure to check out my new LUT packs, Everyday LUTs, Cinematic LUTs, and Vintage LUTs. Available now at my website, link is in the description. In the past, you could shoot green screen with an iPhone, but the bitrate and the color information wasn't really up to professional standards, so to speak. But with the latest iPhone, the iPhone 13, you can shoot 10-bit 422 ProRes, which makes this job much easier. Note too, the 12 Pro series phones you could also shoot 10-bit, but not ProRes, but you can get good results there, and of course with various Android phones as well. You'll need an iPhone, preferably a later generation. I'm using a 13 Pro Max here, and I've got a B-Script Pro on top of a Manfrotto tripod. I'm also using an Edelkrone slider on top there, a wing, but that didn't come into play here, it's just on my tripod. You'll need a green screen. This is a very simple, portable, and collapsible one. You'll need a stand to hold the green screen. I'm using a C-stand, but you could use any kind of stand, a light stand. You could even lean this up against the side of a wall or attach it any way you want. I'm using spring clamps here on the actual C-stand arm. And then you'll need light, but shooting outside like this gives you awesome light. And in particular when it's overcast, because the thing you want to do is make that green screen as evenly lit as possible. I like shooting green screen outside like this because you have, again, nice even light. But of course, if you're in a studio, just light the screen evenly and then light the subject, in this case me, the way you want it to match your background. And that's an important point, especially if you're doing something for a movie or a visual effects shot. You want to match the lighting on the subject to the background plate. In this particular case, I wasn't worried about that as I was doing more of a stylized look, not trying to be photorealistic. I shot 4K 24 frames per second. And because I shot with an iPhone 13 Pro Max, I had ProRes available to me. And I shot ProRes HQ in log, and that's using the Filmic Pro app. They call it Log V3 Plus. People often ask me when they should shoot ProRes, and this is one of those places that I would do it. Anytime you're doing some sort of a visual effects shot, compositing, or heavy color grading, I would choose ProRes. One other thing too, whenever you shoot green screen, it's better to shoot with a faster shutter speed. Motion blur is great for regular shooting, but it can make compositing trickier. And so shooting outside like this, the shutter is automatically faster. I purposely did not use an ND filter here. And now we'll jump into post-production to see how I put this together. All right, I'm in Adobe Premiere Pro, but this could be done in any editing app you want to use. Final Cut Pro, of course, DaVinci Resolve, LumaFusion, it doesn't matter. And so this is the first shot we'll look at. And I actually cropped in on this shot. Here is the original. That's the original shot right out of the camera. And then here is the shot I'm using in the actual edit. And this is the ProRes log. I'm editing in 1080 HD. And so I did that on purpose because I knew I would go in and reframe the shot. So I've already done this work. What I'm going to do now is deconstruct it and show you what I did. And the first thing I did, and it's what I do anytime I'm working with a composite, a green screen composite, and that is I crop out the stuff I don't want to key. And so I cropped out the edges, but because my hat right here is at the top of the frame and then my arm is down here, I had a little bit left over there. I might have been able to crop in on that, but I had some movement in my arm, and so I didn't want to go out of the frame. And so in that case, I actually had to mask out the top corner. You can see there, I just drew a mask and removed that part of the frame. Now there are some apps like LumaFusion where you can't do that, but there are workarounds. And so after you crop that out, then I will typically do color correction. Some people pull keys on this and you could pull the key or you could do the color correction. And I put my LUT on here, and this is just a utility LUT correcting down to a Rec 709 from the ProRes log. And after that, I'm using Ultra Key. Very simple stuff here. Usually when I do more advanced compositing, I go into After Effects and use Key Light. But in this case, Ultra Key works totally fine. But of course, I'd gone in previously and finessed the different settings. That's the actual alpha channel. In Premiere Pro, you have an eyedropper, and then you just drop it and it pops away just like that. Again, it works very similar in other programs. And then that is my initial look right there. So from there, I dropped in a piece of stock footage that I found. I'll enable that. There's the stock footage. And so at first glance, that looks kind of funky. You're like, huh, It's a little bit too busy. Now again, I'm not going for reality here. This is more of a stylized look. And so I added a little bit of color correction to darken that to match it to my look better. And then, and this is key, and I do this on a lot of different compositing, I added a blur. And that blur just gives it a little bit of shallow depth of field. Makes it feel a little more realistic in quotes. Just also provides some separation. Then the other thing I did to make this really sell is I added just a very slight bit of diffusion. You can see it changing right there. Almost like a highlight bloom. I'm using Magic Bullet Looks to do that. You can see it off and on here. It's just real subtle. These are finishing things that you don't have to do if you don't want to. Just for me, they take the composite to a little bit of the next level. And so since I put that looks on the background, I did the same thing on me. And so there, that is now on me. And I did different amounts. You could technically put that on an adjustment layer, which I have here at the top, but I wanted to have different amounts on the different layers. And so that's why I didn't do that. And speaking of the adjustment layer, that's the layer on top here. And again, most editing apps offer adjustment layers or something similar. I added a vignette over the top. See that on and off? And then I added a film simulation from Film Convert. And that kind of ties the whole thing together. And the last thing I did in this particular video is I put a graphic behind me. This is a video I did about this gimbal right here, the Vimble 3 from Filmic. By the way, I'll drop a link to this video in the description if you want to check it out to give it some context. But pretty cool that I went from this original shot here, shooting this in my backyard on an iPhone, to that right there. Let's say you're a vlogger or maybe a YouTube travel filmmaker, or you're just going on vacation with the family. And then we'll look at the second one really quickly. Same exact process. Just wanted to show a little bit of a different look. Here's the original shot. Here is the cropped in version. And then speaking of cropping, that's the first thing I did is I cropped it out. Then I did color correction. Again, that's just a utility LUT. It's actually not the final look. And then I keyed out the background. And then I dropped in the background plate, shot of some mountains, did the same thing here. I added a little bit of blur to the background to give it some separation. And then I added some diffusion. Diffusion is real subtle. Did the same thing on me. Here is that diffusion on me. You can see that kind of lightens the whole image up a little bit and it gives it just a little bit of softness. I think it takes that digital edge off. The color correction on this background plate looked pretty good. I didn't do much to that, but on the adjustment layer now, the overall look, I added another vignette. And then I added Film Convert again with just a little bit of grain and a film gamma curve. And the last bit of this one is the title, Travel. And I won't go through this last one, but the last one was the exact same process. I'm supposed to be at the beach. Again, this is more of a stylized look. I'm not really trying to present like I'm at the beach. But doing it this way was kind of a fun and effective way to get the idea across that this gimbal is really designed for travel and vlogging style stuff. The gimbal that I was reviewing in the video, the Vimble 3. So today, using just an iPhone, you can get remarkably professional results doing green screen shooting and compositing. And just remember, you don't have to use the other third-party plugins that I used. You could just take the green screen shot, do a composite in LumaFusion, for example, do some color correction, and export it for YouTube or whatever. Really pretty amazing today what we can do with mobile video. Links for the various gear I mentioned are in the description. Don't forget to check out my LUTs. They work great with Filmic Pro, ProRes Log. Thanks for watching. This is Blake Calhoun, and I'll see you in the next video.